Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another video. It is really starting to spice up now in terms of the head coach recruitment look for Norwich City. Liam Manning, very much a thing of the past now. All eyes on who is going to be taking charge, hopefully, for that next game against Birmingham in just over a week's time. That will be the intention of the club. They want someone in place by then. 3 names currently leading the race. Now, the last time we spoke about it, it was Russ Martin, Gary O'Neill and Will Still. I think we can cross a line through that of Russell Martin. I don't think Still, the club, for whatever reason, are entirely convinced with Russ. So let's put a cross through that. Gary O'Neill and Will Still remain. Gary O'Neill was formally interviewed by Ben Napper and Neil Adams in London earlier this week. I believe that there is still interest in Will Still as well. The new name coming to the fold is Jeal Tomasan. We obviously all know about him from his playing days, probably most well known in his managerial tenure for his time at Blackburn Rovers. His Blackburn Rovers side beat us twice at Carrow Road. You'll probably remember that I think it was a 3-1 defeat when Sammy Schmodix run the show. And he got that Blackburn team really purring in that first full season of his. He took them to 7th place and actually left the club the following season in a fairly precarious position, having felt like he didn't get the support that he deserved. He was kind of credited for the development of Adam Wharton, who's obviously gone on to brilliant things and was Blackburn's record sale, the development of Sammy Schmodix there as well. He got that team ticking, and this is a really interesting name to kind of enter the fold. I must say, when I first saw it on Wednesday, I was like, oh, really? Is that who we want to be going for? But in classic kind of excitement around a new person at the club, or a potential new person at the club, I've done a bit of reading, I've done a bit of digging, and actually a lot of it kind of makes sense. Now, if you read the Pink 'Un or listen to the Pink 'Un, you'll know that Paddy Davitt is a huge fan of Jeal Tomasan. And I think for him, he would be the number one name. Obviously, championship experience. He started his managerial career in the Netherlands at Excelsior, then went to Roda, won a couple of league titles with Malmo out in Sweden, then got the move to Blackburn in the EFL. I think on the whole, did a pretty good job, and actually the point in which he left, if you kind of go back and listen to things and read things, Blackburn fans are really disappointed that he didn't stick around, and ultimately the point of blame came for the ownership group there, who weren't supporting him in a way that Tomasan felt fit, and then had a pretty poor period with the Sweden national team that's come to a conclusion recently. So in the market, interesting playing style. I think it fits the way that Ben Napper wants Norwich City to operate, and Ben Napper still a name we're talking about because he is the man leading this recruitment rally alongside Neil Adams, who will be doing the interviewing. I believe that Mark Atanasio is more involved in this one, but still, there's not a huge amount of involvement from Mark Atanasio. So this really does feel... I know I've said it before, but this really does feel like last chance saloon for Ben Napper in terms of getting this appointment right. One would assume he will be afforded the luxury of another transfer window in January, and I suspect that Norwich will spend big. They've obviously got that Marcelino Nunes money that was promised to be reinvested, and Norwich need to spend money. This squad, is expensive, but from what we've seen so far, probably isn't as capable as we first thought. Having said that, Vladan Kovacevic, Harry Darling, Kenny McLean, Josh Sargent, you do have a pretty decent core of a team there. Anyway, enough about that. Jeal Tomasan. So, obviously, we saw his football at Blackburn. There was a lovely quote that came out saying, well, first of all, a clear will and want to develop young players. He said about Adam Wharton, it was a great responsibility to see a young man develop into a senior player, taking responsibility for his own development and going on to play for England. A head coach of a football club, you should know what's happening in every single corner of the club, including the youth team. You should know who is the top talent and who needs a helping hand. Now that, I'm sure, will stick out to those at Norwich City, because actually for the last few seasons, probably barring Kellen Fisher, there hasn't been anyone really breaking through from the academy. And that is such a drop-off, considering, you go a little bit further back and it was Max Aarons, Jamal Lewis, Ben Godfrey, Todd Cantwell, a serious amount of talent that came into that first team and was then sold for sizable sums. And you look at this current squad, barring Josh Sargent, who is the sellable asset. I don't think you've really got one anymore. And Norwich's player trading in probably the last decade really has been pretty positive in terms of finding gems, selling them on for a profit, James Maddison, Emi Buendia et al., or promoting from youth and selling on for big fees. Max Aarons, Jamal Lewis, the list goes on there. So that will be a really key area. The thing that stood out to me was this. Tomasan said, a lot of coaches talk about identity and it sounds very good, but you don't actually see it on the pitch. It's important that your words match the story. For me, the key word in coaching a team tactically is principles. I want a quick game, so I don't want my team to play unnecessary balls sideways. One of my principles is 1 or 2 touches within 1 or 2 seconds. That is a way of talking on the pitch in a way that everyone can see. A non-verbal communication that makes your game feel fluent, quick, active, proactive football. That is what we want at Norwich City. Now, principles, close to being banned, along with behaviours and processes and roadmaps. But I'll let John off here. I'll let him off. I'll let him have that one. It feels as if, for me, as well as tactically being, tactically astute and having a clear identity, which I don't think Liam Manning had, and that was the concern we've raised around Gary O'Neill, is like, what actually is Gary O'Neill's football? I couldn't really tell you, if I'm being honest, other than the odd counter-attack here and there and scrapping it out. That's really harsh on Gary O'Neill because he's done an exceptional job at the couple of clubs he's been at. But for Tomasan, you felt it with Daniel Farker, you felt it with Johannes Torup. A clear identity will get you a long way. It will get buy-in from the fans. And ultimately, that is what we need at this stage. We need buy-in from fans. We need a clear identity. We need a vision. And that comes from communication. And I need to be seeing more from Ben Napper on that front. But it also comes from the way that you play football. He said that we must not forget we need to take care of football as a product and give something back to the fans. There needs to be excitement, even if it's from a coach's point of view. You want to come with control. I don't want to be a chaotic football side. I want to control the chaos and dominate with and without the ball. He says all the right things. Look, I would be lying if I said that I've watched a whole load of Jeal Tomasan's footballing sides, but I did watch a lot of that Blackburn side under him and watched a lot of Blackburn beating Norwich City in his time. There was a 100% win record for him at Carrow Road. And, one would assume that with the adequate resource that he deems fit, there is a good head coach in here. Much like Will Still, much like Gary O'Neill, is he the perfect product? Absolutely not. Are we a side 23rd in the Championship? And are we able to attract the best names in the managerial game at the moment? No, probably not. So we have to understand where we're at. I still think it's an attractive job. I still think on paper that squad isn't as bad as some think. Granted, is it worth 70 odd million quid, whatever we've spent on it? No, but it is still capable. It's certainly better than a squad in the bottom 3 of the Championship. So there is a real opportunity for whoever comes in at this club to take us on a journey. We are still a big club in the Championship. I don't care what anyone says. So, I know the Borough job is kind of up for grabs. I think they've actually given it to their interim, haven't they? That you've got the Swansea job up for grabs. You've got the Southampton job up for grabs. I'd still have Norwich ranking certainly up with Borough and Southampton and above the Swansea opportunity. And that's hard to say because we're in the relegation zone. We've not picked up a point at Carrow Road. But when your ultimately expectations are down here, and there is the resource, you've got world-class academy academy ground and the training facilities. You've got a huge investment in data. You've got an ownership group that will back you with funds, and you've got a pretty safe kind of infrastructure around you. Now, obviously, if you're a head coach and you're seeing, what was it been, 5 managers in the last 5 years, you're seeing the disruptions with Ben Napper and Zoe Webber and Neil Adams, you're not walking into a particularly graceful environment there. And I think you do have a dynamic where lots of people are fighting for their own careers rather than the greater good of the club. I do get that feeling. But this is still a good job. I really believe in that. And I think we can attract top talent. Jeal Tomasan, I like it. I do like it. I think I probably like it more than O'Neill and Will Still. I think they all bring something slightly different. I think they all bring their own negatives. And look, if you're going off of Tomasan's last job, it certainly doesn't paint him in a very pretty picture. He had a really decent Sweden squad and failed to do anything. So, hard to say. But 3 decent conversations from club to head coach. I would be really surprised if we don't see an immediate bounce in terms of results. I mean, you can't get any worse at home, so a point would be considered a bounce at this stage. But big week of fixtures coming up after the break: Birmingham, Oxford, QPR. The latter 2 in those both being at Carrow Road. If you can put 5 or 6 wins together in the next 10 games, the whole complexity of our situation looks so much different. And I think that's where the opportunity comes, because there is a chance to take us on a journey, to do well with this squad. And I'm not saying that will happen this season. I think survival should still be the absolute priority, but there is an opportunity to build here. And I think at some teams, you've not got that. Let me know what you think. Who are you wanting as head coach? I think it will probably be one of these 3. Pretty obvious to say. There might be some late names come into the mix. But if they want a head coach in for Birmingham, that gives them essentially a week today in order to get that done. So they've not got a huge amount of time. Jeal Tomasan, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.